So I was gonna record a little bit of thoughts on EO that I watched last night, and now that I've had time to kind of digest it, um, well, in my sleep, I guess, but it was very interesting. I really think I liked it. The first like gut reaction, um, when I was in the theater was at first the first part I really liked it because I thought it started extremely strong. Um, and I think that mainly it broke immediately from the expectation in my head that it was going to be like a more formal remake of Bresson's film. But yeah, I think I would say intentionally the beginning is so like digital that it kind of is playing with that idea of it being a remake of Bresson, where it's like really, yeah. So I think it was kind of being a little bit tongue in cheek, which was very fun. And then as it kind of progressed a little bit, I felt myself kind of getting worried that I wasn't liking it, that it was kind of being, that it was going to follow this woman um, and her relationship with Io, the donkey. She's like the first like character we see. And I think that she's pretty bad as an actress. So I was getting kind of worried. And then also that would be like it would be kind of sliding more into what I thought was the kind of more Bressonian, that sounds pretentious, Bressonian kind of film. Anyways, but yeah, it gets it slips away from that, thankfully. And yeah, when there's a couple of sequences that stand out. Like one is when EO goes into the woods for the first time. I mean, it becomes like almost straight up an experiment, like an avant-garde experimental film that's just pure sight sound. Really digital. Really liked it. It was just like the sounds were like so loud, and so dominant. And as that kind of progressed, the big chunks in the movie theme wise to me was like red and then sound and noise, and it was just so intense. It was like no subtlety. I really liked it. I really liked that. There's something about that was really unique, I thought. You just I haven't felt like I've seen anything like that in modern times, or not in modern times. Recently in films. So that really kept my attention throughout the whole film. I think that the color shifting, and then there's another sequence where it follows a little robot as it kind of like struggles to get up, and then it moves and it follows it, and then towards the end, there's a sequence with EO in the forest where they like do some overlay of the forest on EO's body, which is really cool. Um, yeah, so the visuals in the style, I think throughout the whole movie is like flashing red, like just like bright laser red, I think is what I would say, because there's also like some lasers in there, whatever, when they're hunting. But yeah, laser red, and then just like these changes of music in different areas, which to me was the big thing in the film that I took from it. It was the big like connecting tissue was like movement from space, and each space has its own music, its own kind of like rhythm. Um, yeah, just movements of environments. And I think there's something about the dumbness of the donkey, but like its ears are always picking up sounds. So like it's not comprehending, but it's hearing the sounds, and I think that like I definitely connect with that a lot. Just like not understanding, just moving through life in these different areas, and then just like have no idea what's going on, but you can just hear things, and yeah, yeah. But I don't. And then I think the red is a real to me, like kind of there's some ironic play on film and digital film going on there. And I think especially with it being kind of like a pseudo remake of Balthazar, Balthazar, whatever it is. Um, yeah, there weren't too many like emotionally captivating filmic moments, but it did. Actually, that's not true. When they were showing some of there's some slow motion shots of horses uh, that I was like, this is really Jean Epstein's. This is Jean Epstein in modern day right now. Um, yeah, showing the muscles of horses and movement, and then using slow motion, and you know, so it's a little tough because that was really I really love that. It was really striking. Um, it also wasn't new, but I think that the surrounding elements of this like new presentation uh, with the camera work and the crazy visuals and the red and the music, especially, kind of built up and supported that slow motion moment of the horses in motion to allow that to kind of follow Jean Epstein's thought process of keeping the viewer engaged with new techniques to show uh, the processes of life in the world through a new way. So it's not really like showing it a new way. It's just a slow motion of horses, but it gets the attention better than if it just was a flat, shot of slow motion of the muscles twitching in the horses. Yeah. So I think that moment was probably the most like filmic, beautiful moment in it. And then the rest, I was thoroughly engaged in a polite interest of, the film itself and how it's being presented. Um, yeah, it had some humor to it too, which was interesting. I think that's kind of more indicative of the director, who I didn't even know who he was at first, and then I went back and looked at his letterbox. Turns out I've seen two of his movies. Of course, my memory is so bad at this point, and I don't retain films. But yeah, one about some guy following a woman in a theater. I forget what it's called. But yeah, that kind of Polish pseudo surrealism humor element to it. Um, and yeah, there's a murder scene that was quite shocking, um, in a good way. It was like it re-sparked the kind of human element, I guess, in the film, because I think that if it did just follow you the whole time, putting importance on like animals the whole time, it may have lost viewer interest eventually. Um, I will say, I think that in the theater, it's hard to. This is not related to the movie, but in the theater experience, it's been a while since I've had like a theater experience for like a art house film. So hearing everyone kind of like gasp when Isabelle Huppert showed up was kind of funny, and a little bit enjoyable. Um, but it's just so weird when you see like, to me it's just so weird because this it has implied elements of like animal abuse. They like beat the donkey and they kill a wolf and they kill some like minks, I think. But then you hear like people gasp and be like, oh, it's just what why do these people emote like that and I don't? What is this? I'm always confused by that. Like I get a jump scare emote and I get a cry emote, but to like emote audibly for an expression of like distaste and um, you know against cruelty, it's just why? What is it's so strange to me. Um, so yeah, that I don't know. It took me out of it for a bit, but especially because, it's hard not to look around and just see it's all rich old people. Flip side of that is, of course, I hate it when people hate the rich. I'm for it. I'm for the rich. Go for it. But it's just, I don't know. Yeah. Whatever element I'm in, I'm always against, apparently. Anyways, this is not related to EO anymore. So, um, but yeah, strangely enough, the section with Isabella Pear was, I think, I don't know. I might end up liking it later, but it was like kind of the weirdest and the most, I don't know, probably not. Yeah, I don't think I liked it at the time. They introduced like an incest element with the priest and Isabel Pear, some rich woman on a like farm in Spain. Um, but yeah, it felt weird, and just adding Isabel Pear in this kind of naturalistic film, uh, I think that was a bad idea. Um, yeah, and then the ending I thought was really good. It has really intense music, and it leads up to like EO ushering in death after being like witnessing so much death around him. And then he's like herding these pigs that or no cows into like being killed with a cow killing gun. And that's like the last sound you hear is like the thud. Yeah, really impressive sound design. Like so, yeah, a lot of reflection in the sound for sure. And I love the red. Yeah, such a unique color palette. So yeah, I think big props for the film for being so bold and not being pretentious. I think it never like, oh no, wait, no. At the end, it said this film was made out of love for nature and animals, and no animals are harmed. You got to cut that. You can't have that in the film. That was really. I'm trying to forget that because that really taints the whole unpretentiousness of the film. Um, because if it didn't have that, it would have just been, I feel like, no message attached, no forcing, um, dumb as a donkey kind of thing. Film, red, intense sounds. Um, but yeah, then adding that at the end, it's like, oh, okay, this was, you can't get the idea out of your head that it is like, animals are great, nature's great, and humans bad, et cetera, et cetera. So that was a little tough, but yeah, I'm trying not to take that into too much consideration of the film's visual, uh, uh, whatever. Yeah. Um, and yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said about that kind of irony being at play with the Bresson film and this film. Um, yeah, yeah, that's about it. I think upon more retrospect, uh, the Isabeau Huppert part is very interesting. And I think it kind of maybe it contradicts what I was saying because I said it took it out of the naturalistic feel. But at the beginning, I was saying it's more interested in digital, in the kind of film itself, as opposed to portraying the Bresson story in a which is more naturalistic, more spiritual. So I think it both works in playing to what I was saying before in the kind of harsh irony of making this remake type and then having like out of nowhere a AAA actress star come up as opposed to Bresson using non-actors all the time. I think that that's one section or one part of it. And then also it's not I don't think it is trying to be natural. I think it's actually trying to be unnatural. And I think that's why it's so good. or so effective at being this like engaging visual experience because the sound is so amplified, the visuals are so distorted and experimental that it's portraying nature in an unnatural way, or you know, yeah, yeah. So I think that actually, upon retrospect, I think that it's kind of a tough scene to swallow because my first instinct was I don't like this. Because of what I was saying earlier, it's like it takes you out of it. But then looking back on it, I think it actually does work, and is kind of it does seem very tongue in cheek too. Um, yeah.